Merci beaucoup d'être ici aujourd'hui. I first want to acknowledge that we are on Indigenous territories for many generations. Aujourd'hui, je vais déposer un projet de loi visant à réintroduire la certification qui garantit que les contributions politiques sont personnelles et ne viennent pas de sociétés commerciales ou de syndicats. Today, I will table a private member's bill to reintroduce the certification that political donations are paid by individuals and not reimbursed by other parties, including corporations or unions. I spent my entire professional career working to have a strong democracy that is transparent and to have fairness for our communities. It's impossible to have the conviction that fairness is accomplished if governments are influenced mostly by the wealthy and the well-connected. I am concerned about democratic processes, and that's the reason why I want to introduce this bill. I want to ensure that all decisions made by a government, whether or not they have the same political affiliation as I do, are informed by the input from the people that these decisions will actually affect, and not by wealthy and well-connected few. The reason why I brought forward this private member's bill is the loophole that was created in Schedule 13 of Bill 57 that was introduced by the government, created a loophole that actually allowed for the reintroduction of corporate and union donations into the political system, and that's wrong. Public trust in the government depends on the public's confidence that it was elected fairly without undue influence. I cannot emphasize how important it is for people to not only know that government has been elected, but to have the confidence that no one has influenced the process in an unfair manner. I think we know that all politicians want to have the credibility to act in the public interest without any appearance that they are indeed swayed by other motives that are not genuine to the particular people that are being affected. So I want to introduce the certification back into the political process because a simple certification is and should be the best practice and should not be seen as a roadblock. Indeed, I call it click for democracy, because you are indeed, the only thing that you have to do is click that indeed you are willing and able to provide these political contributions, that you're going to do it of your own will, and that you're not going to be reimbursed by a third party for making this political contribution. I think this click for democracy will be a way of certifying that indeed people are willing to make the political contribution, and importantly, they're not going to be reimbursed by others. I came convinced that it was important to introduce this private member's bill after the last Ford fundraiser, where, as you will recall, the price tag was $1,250 for a ticket. I have a hard time believing that 3,000 Ontarians paid themselves $1,250 for a ticket. I worry that many tables were bought by lobbyists. And I think I want to refer today with the allegations that MPP Hilliard has made, that it could very well be that tables were bought by lobbyists and that not everybody that was at this fundraiser paid himself or herself for the cost of the dinner. So I am concerned about that, and I want this to be a non-political issue. So I think the reason why people hate politicians is because they are worried that indeed they are swayed by big money and that they make backroom deals with their friends or people that have ready access to them. I think the changes that I'm trying to make here is a small step simply to ensure that we continue to click to ensure and affirm that we are making this political contribution of our own funds and without being reimbursed by a third party. This will ensure transparency in electoral financing, and I hope that all parties will support this. It's not a partisan issue. It's obviously bad for democracy to have the appearance that political contributions are coming from corporate donors or from other people than the person that is listed as having made that contribution. So a government that claims to be for the people should understand that this is important to reassure every Ontarian that the process continues to be fair and will be free of influence. And it's particularly important to do so today. So I'm calling for the Election Finances Act to be amended to make it an offense to reimburse the value of an individual donor's political contribution. And I'm calling for the reintroduction of the mandatory political contribution certification to be made by all donors to all political parties at the time of their donation. This needs to state that a contribution comes only from the donor's own assets and that the value of the contribution will not be reimbursed by a third party. This government has purposely opened a loophole to allow illegal contribution to flow into the party's coffer, and I believe that it's appropriate to remove this loophole. It's important to do so today, and I will continue to advocate for all parties to obey by this recommendation, no matter what the outcome is. Merci beaucoup.
So, Nathalie, when we saw this loophole in the fall economic statement, I spoke to the government, and they said that the reason that they made the change was it was an inconvenience for donors, particularly elderly people, things like that. It was not. This was not. They weren't trying to make it easier for people to illegally donate, and they made the point that this matches the federal law.
Yeah, but Quebec has the ability to click and to donate, and I believe that actually it's only a click and it's a tick on the. So I think people can click and can tick, and the ability here is to simply ensure that you certify that indeed that's your intent and that's what's going to happen. I think the ability to click and tick to make sure that you're not going to be reimbursed by a third party is important as well. I worry that big fundraisers like the one we saw may have tables were bought by people, and who knows whether everybody made the initial contribution. We're still waiting to the report from Elections Ontario to see whether all the laws were followed. But I think it's important to reintroduce a commitment, an individual indication from people that they will not be reimbursed and that they're making this financial contribution out of their own funds.
Now, Mr. Ford banned the media from that fundraiser where 3,200 people were there after. Initially, the media were allowed to go, and then after we reported that lobbyists were selling tickets, do you think that they didn't want the media to see who was there? I mean, because we're going to get the list of names from Elections Ontario, so
eventually. But nevertheless, I think what we don't know at this point is whether indeed everybody paid for their own ticket. And I think that's the point of my intervention today, is that I suspect that lobbyists bought tables and may or may not have sought reimbursement from all the people that were there.
Now, I spoke to a lot of lobbyists who were under a lot of pressure to sell tickets. Do you think that I mean, it is hard to get 3,000 people to donate $1,250.
That's
a lot of money. So do you think that they did this on purpose?
But feeling the pressure, I think you could
You said that they did it on purpose. This is how they get around the loophole. This is how you have your 3,000 people, and then you say, "Oh, I bought 10 tickets," and Dave.
I'm not assigning motive. I'm just saying the loophole is there, and the loophole is inappropriate, and we need to close it. It's not a panacea, because but it adds I think some transparency, and it rests on the fact that most people would want to be honest and not be caught as having lied. And I think that's the reason why I'm bringing that forward.
And when is this? Is this today or Thursday?
I'm going to table it today. Okay, merci beaucoup. Thank you.